Hey everybody and welcome back to Chill Out Esports, and today we are talking about 100 Thieves Valorant team in the VCT Americas League. So 100 Thieves have had a very up and down season. After a decent performance at Lock-in losing to Fnatic, who eventually won that tournament, they lost their first match of the regular season against Sentinels, and then after that they won, and then lost, and then won a couple, lost a couple, and now they're back in the win column. But unfortunately, their playoff chances are kind of in dire straits. They do still have a pretty decent chance of making playoffs, but we're here to talk about it today. So in case you're confused by the title, are 100 Thieves a bad team? I personally do not think that they are a bad team, but there is some glaring issues on this team that we really need to talk about, because a team that looks like at the end of last year they might be one of the best teams in North America, and with the addition of Cryo cells might be one of the best teams in the world, things have quickly turned out like they definitely are not in that upper echelon that you need to be in to be able to win tournaments. And if the season ends with them not qualifying for any international tournament, either in the regular season going into Masters Tokyo or an LCQ going into Champions, we could see some big changes to this team. Now, one of the things that Nadeshot mentioned in this team when they added Cryocells is that he wants to build a young team, have them play together for a while, and give them time to build chemistry. And while that all sounds good and dandy, 100 Thieves is an organization known, especially with their Valorant team, to make very quick and rash decisions, but they have not done that so far, even though they've kind of been struggling and haven't been meeting expectations so far. It doesn't mean that they can't improve or won't improve. I do think that they have a decent chance, but when you look at how competitive the Americas League is right now, it's hard to imagine them overcoming one of the top three teams to be able to make it into Masters Tokyo. So if they don't make it to Masters Tokyo, then they're going to have to make another LCQ run. When you have an Americas League that is dominated by Loud, C9, and right now Energy, it's hard to imagine, especially with the way that they're playing right now, 100 Thieves being able to overcome one of those top three teams. Crazier things has happened, so they can do it, but I'm not entirely sure that they're going to be able to do it. This is a team that I am really rooting for. They have a good young team. They have a lot of talent, and they're building their Valorant team in a different way than most. But I also feel like ever since Sean Garris left, that this team is starting to show cracks that weren't previously there when he was head coach. Sean Garris knows Valorant very well, but him moving on to content creation, I think, is a big blow to this roster, and so far the new coaches haven't been able to get the most out of this team. In terms of their current standing, they currently sit fourth in the Americas, so you might be asking yourself, well, why are you saying they're a bad team, or why are you saying that they're struggling right now, they're in fourth? Well, the record is 4-4, which currently there are 4 teams with a 4-4 record. It's a 4-team tie for that 4th place spot, but 100 Thieves do have the tiebreaker, which helps them and currently is the reason why they're in a playoff spot. If you don't know what the tiebreaker is, it's kind of weird. Basically, if it's a 2-team tie, it's basically just whichever team won the matchup versus each other, and then there's other rules for 3-team ties, and then it's basically like matchups first, whoever won the matchup if there's a tie, and then it goes down the stats of like map differential, round differential, all that stuff. I think it should just be maps won, maps lost, because I think that's a better measure of which teams were doing better throughout the season. But I'm not Riot, and Riot has a weird format with all their stuff, so that's just how it is. Currently for the map differential, they are -2. They have won 9. They've lost 11. Love that number. The rounds, they are 215 won to 231 lost for -16. So the numbers are saying that this team really isn't performing as well as the teams that are below them. Fury has won 10 maps, Evil Geniuses have won 10 maps, and Leviathan have won 11. So those 3 teams below them that they're tied with, they've beat all of them in their matchups, and that's why they are in 4th place. So they're very lucky for that, because if this was done a different way, 100 Thieves would currently be out of a playoff spot right now. They have the least amount of maps won in that 4-team tie. So again, Riot doing Riot things, but 100 Thieves currently is benefiting from it. So right now, 100 Thieves' destiny is in their control. If they win their next match, which is their last of the season against MIBR over this weekend, if they win that, they secure the spot and they are fine. But if they lose that, they need everyone else to lose. So you want to be in control of your destiny. You don't want to be in a position like Sentinels is in right now, where you're pretty much not in control of what happens to your team because your record's so bad. So they have a decent record, but they need to end with a 5-4 record. They need to beat MIBR, who they're playing. That should be an easy match. MIBR are second last. They are not making playoffs, but they have had some upset victories over Energy this season, so you're really going to want to be careful for that one. They have to win their A game. They have to win that one. So looking at their maps, their best map is Haven. They are currently undefeated on it. They have played on it 3 times. Their attack win rate is 50%, and their defense win rate is 62. Currently, Haven is the only map that they are undefeated on. But looking at the other maps in rotation, we start to see that this team really does not have as deep of a map pool as some of the other top teams. They haven't won on Bind or Pearl, playing both of those maps 1 time, but the really damning one is their record on Ascent. They've played Ascent 4 times. They have lost every single match. I don't have the number on the board, but their attack win rate on Ascent is 36%, which is abysmal, and then defense is 40%. Terrible numbers on that map. So if you're playing 100 Thieves and you're looking for a map to counterpick on and you have a decent Ascent, that's probably what you should go with. And then their record on Split is 2-1, and the record on Icebox is 1-1. I couldn't fit the stats for Fracture, but they are 2-2 on that map, playing that map 4 times and have won 2 and lost 2. So they seem to play Fracture a lot. They seem to play Ascent and Haven and Split a lot. But the rest of the maps, they don't play that often, but don't seem to do very well on. Fracture, they have played 4 times, and they've split that 2-2, so it's not like they're terrible at every map, or they have a map that they're like super bad at aside from Ascent, but they don't have a lot of positive stats when it comes to the maps that they have a positive record on. And going winless on 3 different maps, granted, they have just played Bind and Pearl 1 time, so that can change in just 1 match, but not being able to win on those maps is a huge weakness, and again, teams can exploit that. So I wanted to do a little player highlight here and do it kind of differently from what I did with Artis back in the Energy video. I looked at Artis specifically and looked at how he improved from his first 4 games to his last 4 games. But for Cryo, we're going to be looking at how he does on different characters. So currently in the regular season, Cryo has played Jett 14 times, Sage 4 times. He's also played Omen 2 times. I don't have his Omen stats up on here just because he's only played him twice and he hasn't really done great on him, so just don't put him on controller. Feel like that's not his vibe personally, but I'm not 100 Thieves' coaching staff, so I don't know. But Cryo is known and was signed on to 100 Thieves to be their Jett opping agent. If Chamber was still good, he would probably still be fragging out on Chamber, but alas, Chamber sucks now. So in playing Jett 14 times, he has 235 kills, 216 deaths, 56 assists, plus 19 for a 1.09 KD ratio. And on Sage, he has played her on 4 different maps with 73 kills, 66 deaths, 36 assists for plus 7, and a 1.11 KD ratio. So what's interesting is that he actually has a higher KD ratio on Sage than he does on Jett. Granted, a much smaller sample size for Sage, so those numbers are going to be a bit skewed because of that. But even so, it does show that his play doesn't really change too much when he's playing Sage. I understand why they're playing him on Sage sometimes, and it seems to be like when Jett isn't on a map that is specifically effective to Jett, that they're going to throw him on a Sentinel role because that's probably a better move in terms of team composition. But I also think that sometimes teams get a little too lost in that team composition sauce, because I think you really have to focus on playing your players to their strengths. And that's what I've kind of seen with a lot of the players that were Chambers last year coming into this season, Artis, Yay, even Cryo, is that a lot of the time, like, teams were putting them on different roles. Weirdly enough, Sage a lot of the time. I guess Sentinels just aren't super meta right now, so have Sage. There you go. It's just really weird to me because Sage is not similar to Jett or Chamber in a lot of ways, or in any way, really. Sometimes you have players that aren't super versatile, and that's fine. Not every player has to be able to play every character. Not everyone's Victor. But I think teams should focus while they're building their team, first of all, but also while you have the team, to think of how are we going to put these players in the best position to succeed. And early on in the season, I don't know if they were specifically doing that with Cryo. They were putting him on Jet a lot, so it's not like they were always taking Jet away from him like they were kind of doing with Artis on Energy at the start. But he did kind of have a slow start to the season. He wasn't performing very well. He wasn't getting a lot of kills. But over the last 3 matches, he has been their top fragger, so he has recovered from a slow start and he's playing very well. Was he the right choice for 100 Thieves? I think it's still not clear to me if he was what they should have gone with. They were in on Ye, but they didn't end up going with him, and Cloud9 got him. Now Ye is on DSG, which is just a terrible, terrible team. I feel bad for them, honestly. I feel really bad for Ye. He should be on Cloud9 still. But alas, 100 Thieves went to Cryo because he was younger, felt like he would have better chemistry with his teammates, being a very young team and all. So I understand the thinking that they had, and I think it can work out, and I don't think they should make any drastic changes in the offseason unless things just go completely off the rocker and just completely downhill. But I think 100 Thieves should stick with the original vision of keeping this team for a while and letting them build chemistry and grow up with one another. I'll talk about that a little bit more later, but right now we're going to talk about their region records. So with the Americas League being a combination of North American teams, Latin American teams, and Brazilian teams, I thought it would be interesting for us to look at how 100 Thieves does against each of these regions, because that's been a big talking point for not just 100 Thieves, but just in general in the Americas League, is how each region is performing against one another when they're all clumped together in this 10-team league. So versus North American teams, they have the worst record. They are 1-3. So they've played every other North American team in this league during the regular season, and they have only won against Evil Geniuses, who at the time were looking pretty bad. They have since recovered, and now they actually have the same record as 100 Thieves, which no one really expected. But alas, they are 1-3, and they don't have a great record. They need to be able to beat these North American teams, because those are going to be the ones that you're really going to be looking to overcome, because those organizations, they are rivals. While they will act all funny on Twitter and with their very terrible social media interns, I hate how every single one of these teams tweets. They are just so not funny, and God. Anyway, it's very important for 100 Thieves as an organization to overcome the other North American teams, because they're teams that you're directly competing with to not only win, but also to get players in the future. So you really have to perform well against your own region. Now looking at their record against the 2 Latin American teams, which is Crew and Leviathan, they are 2-0. They've beat both of them in a pretty impressive win over Leviathan. Crew's an easy now, basically. Not entirely easy. They have had a lot of close maps. I feel like they should have won at least 3 matches, honestly. But that's not where they are, and 100 Thieves beat them in that match. Versus Brazilian team, so they've faced 2 out of the 3. They will be facing MIBR for the last one this weekend, but they are 1-1, losing to Loud and beating Furia. Now, beating Furia was a very important match. That was the last match that they played, and that was a very important win, because if Furia won there, they would have had a better record than them, and they would have been in that 4th place spot, and 100 Thieves would be out of the playoffs. So a very key win over Furia in that one, and the next one is also very key as well. So they have a decent record overall. They just can't beat North American teams for whatever reason, and that's going to be really important come playoff time. So they really have to figure out when they do make playoffs, or if they do make playoffs, how to beat those North American teams and how to overcome a team like Loud. Speaking of a team like Loud, there's my segue into looking at the last 2 matches that they played. First off, talking about 2 matches ago where they got steamrolled by, you guessed it, Loud. So they lost 2-0 against Loud, 5-13 on Ascent, another very weak performance on Ascent by this team, and Split was closer going into overtime, 13-15. So losing against Loud, it's excusable because they're Loud, they're the best team in the league right now, but that was a really key match late in the season, so they really needed that one, and they just came up short, unfortunately. And again, Ascent cost them that one. So looking at individual stats in that match, Cryocells had 38 kills, 30 deaths, 11 assists, 4+8, and an average combat score of 232. He is then followed by Asuna, who's considered by many to be their best player. He had 32 kills, 36 deaths, and 12 assists for -4. and an average combat score of 212. Derek didn't have a very good match, 26 kills, 32 deaths, 17 assists for -6, and an average combat score of 167. Not great stats there. And then we have the Smokes player Bane, who also did really not have a good match there. 121 average combat score, 23 kills, 31 deaths, 19 assists for -8. They kind of came out flat in that first map on Ascent, and they did battle hard for Split, but it just did not go their way. It is loud. But a match that did go their way is their last one and pretty much saved their season, and that is their win against Furia. That was a close 2-1 victory. They lost Pearl 10-13, so they were pretty much one map away from having their season pretty much in dire straits. And then Fracture, they brought it back 13-7. And then Haven, 13-11, again, going undefeated on that map. And looking at the stats, we yet again see Cryocell's top fragging as he continues his improved play from the start of the season. 63 kills, 44 deaths, 14 assists for +19, and average combat score of 263. Then we see Bane have a much needed bounce back game playing Smokes, 204 average combat score, 49 kills, 39 deaths, 28 assists for +10. Derek also having a good bounce back match with an average combat score of 178, 40 kills, 40 deaths, 28, and even. Asuna is also even in his kill-death differential with 43 kills, 43 deaths, 30 assists for an average combat score of 188, so a little bit better than Derek's there. And then Stellar, again, at the bottom, but doesn't really matter too much. 39 kills, 43 deaths, 15 assists for -4, and an average combat score of 164. So that was a really must-needed bounce-back game from 100 Thieves. Again, probably saved their season, and it could very well be the reason why they get into playoffs, especially against a team that, because of that win, now has the same exact record of them, and they have the tiebreaker because of that match. So those are the stats from the last two matches that they played. Now we're going to look at overall stats. Topping off the leaderboard, we have the new guy who we were talking about earlier, Cryo. He has 334 kills, 318 deaths, 117 assists for a KD ratio of 1.05 and a KDA of 1.41. Now, what's interesting and kind of concerning is the fact that Cryo, despite having a rough start to the season, is the only one on this team with a positive KD ratio. No one else has more kills than deaths on this team, and with the team that has supposedly a lot of talent, that's kind of concerning. Granted, they're not super far off. We got two players at 0.98 and then around the 90 to 80 range for the other two. You need those big performances from your big players, and we haven't really been getting that from Asuna too much, at least not as much in the past. So really hoping he can start getting really hot and have a really good playoff run. Here's hoping, because he's a very talented player. He's been on 100 Thieves for a while. He's pretty much their main guy. So really hoping that he performs a lot better. Speaking of him, 315 kills, 319 deaths, 173 assists for a KD ratio of, as we said, 0.98 and a KDA of 1.52. Looking at Bang, who has been their Smokes player this season in 20 maps, he has 306 kills, 310 deaths, 170 assists for 0.98 KD ratio, as we said, and a 1.53 KDA ratio. And then with Derek on Initiator, we have 278 kills, 304 deaths, 161 assists, for a KD ratio of 0.91 and a KDA of 1.44. And now looking at their IGL Stellar, who has been playing Killjoy, Viper, and Cypher. In 20 maps, he has 267 kills, which is lowest on the team, 310 deaths, 96 assists, 0.86 KD ratio, and a 1.17 KDA ratio. So the stats are negative when you look at plus minus in terms of kills and deaths for a lot of these players, but that isn't always what you're looking for from all those players. But what is concerning is Asuna having below 1, and granted that can change in just one match, so these numbers aren't really set in stone. They still have one more match against MIBR where things can change. So really hoping they do it and we see some of these numbers improve. And then looking at some per map stats for Cryo, kills per map 16.7, deaths per map 15.9, assists per map 5.8. Asuna has 15.7 kills per map, 15.9 deaths per map, 8.6 assists per map. Bane, kills per map is 15.3, deaths is 15.5, and assists is 8.5. And for Derek, 13.9 kills per map, 15.2 deaths per map, 8 even on assists per map, Stellar, 13.3 kills, 15.5 deaths, 4.8 assists per map. So with some of the talent on this team, you would hope that some of these per map numbers would be a bit higher, especially for Asuna. Cryo in terms of kills per map, is in the top 8. I just checked Wikipedia for that one. But a lot of what I'm seeing from this team is just a lot of inconsistencies. And again, they don't have the deepest map pool. They are inconsistent on some maps, so they really need to get into a good flow going into playoffs. So that game against MIBR is not only important for standing wise, but it's also important for getting momentum going into playoffs. If the playoffs started right now, they would be facing Furia, which is a team that they have proven they can beat. So that matchup wouldn't be too daunting for them, but they would be facing Loud in the next one, which would not go their way. I'm just saying that right now. They're not winning that. Unless they have an upset or Loud gets too cocky and underestimates them, but I kind of doubt that's how it's going to go. So, and if they drop to say 6th place, they will be facing Energy in playoffs, which is a matchup that they have proven they cannot win. Can they upset them? Absolutely, but I think Energy is on a mission right now. So, I don't know. This was a team coming into this league that I didn't think would be one of the top teams, but I did expect some pretty decent performances from them so far. I guess I've gone what I've expected out of this team, especially with how talented the rest of the Americas are. But I was kind of hoping that they would kind of be where Energy is right now, like around the 3rd with a 5-3 record, and Energy would be a bit higher. Cloud9, in my opinion, was not expected to be this good when they dropped EA and Vanity, but here they are in 2nd. I wasn't expecting that, and that just goes to show how quickly things can change. You know, you go into one year expecting to be a certain level of quality, and then another team comes out of nowhere and starts doing really good. We're seeing that right now with Evil Geniuses. Evil Geniuses are ruining the playoff hopes of a couple different teams, including Sentinels, so that's another thing. Things can just get really wild and really wacky really fast. So if 100 Thieves are going to want to make it to Tokyo, they really got to turn their game around and do it quick. I do think they're a good team, and I do think that they have a lot of talent. And even if they don't do well this season and they don't make it to any tournament, I still think 100 Thieves should show faith in this roster because they're very young. They have good chemistry. They're good friends. You maybe make a change or two, maybe swap out Bane for someone else or something like that. I'm not saying that as that's what they should do. I'm just using that as a general example. You can change IGL, change Derek, change whatever. But all I'm saying is that I think this roster does have potential to go pretty far. Will they be world champions one day? Right? You know, like you don't know. And that's not really what I'm willing to expect, at least at this stage. But if they prove me wrong, I will absolutely be rooting for them on the international stage. So that'll be it for today. Thank you all for watching. Please click like and subscribe if you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you all for all the recent views and subscriptions. I've been very much appreciating it, so thank you very much. Please stick around. I'm really enjoying making these videos for you all, and leave a comment with whatever topic you have to discuss about either 100 Thieves or any other team. So I really appreciate any and all kind of feedback. Anyways, that's it. Thank you guys very much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.